Gura, also known as Gawr Gura, is a retired virtual YouTuber who was affiliated with Whole Life English. She debuted September 13, 2020 and has since become the most subscribed virtual YouTuber, amassing over 4 million subscribers. Yeah, I didn't understand anything. So yeah. Now, if you are confused as what a virtual YouTuber is, I too am. And if you are confused as how this will reveal the very law of our existence, the very world we live in, and our multiple different timelines, then stay tuned. I'm your host, I'm Anything Simple, and we're doing Anything But Simple. So who is Gura? Why is Gura? Where is Gura? And when is Gura? Well, we will answer that soon. So first of all, who is she? Well, a lot of people think she's the English-speaking Vtuber Senzawa, who debuted in 2017 and was one of the first videos to reach 1 million subscribers. She went on hiatus in the year 2020. She was known for a lot of really interesting creative videos, such as her collab with Delphine, among others. Well, we are not here to talk about them, not yet. So, what is the connection between Senzawa and Gawr Gura? Well, besides the year 2020 being something they have in common, and being somewhat the first VTubers to reach a certain subscriber goal, which is just a coincidence, what else is there? Well, a lot of people point to 4 things. 1, their singing ability. 2, their voice. And 3, Shredder. And number 4, moves. The singing allegations are actually the easiest ones to dispute. You see, the idea behind the karaoke stream is to do karaoke. The pitch is set, the rhythm is set, the timbre is set. So the only difference is the voice and the quality of the voice, or the differences in voice characteristics. This is why we go to the second thing. The second accusation is that voice are very similar. And while yes, that may be true, if you look at 10 VTubers channels, they all sound similar. Because if you look at the videos comparing Senzawa and Gawr Gura, where it's not separate left to right, they are not phase cancelling, which is a 100% scientific way to look at it. Basically, when you have 2 identical or almost identical sounds or audio clips, and you match them or put them on top of each other, if you don't flip the phase, the similarities will technically cancel each other out, or at least decrease the loudness, but the differences will stand out. Let me give you an example, and this is, by the way, totally 100% foolproof and technical, scientifically proven. Let me give you an example, and this is, by the way, totally 100% foolproof and technical, scientifically proven. So when you hear the comparisons, you should be hearing something that sounds really off. But that in itself is very hard to define and clarify with artifacts and timing and scratch and pitch actually being able to change this, because those are changes. So we cannot totally rule it out. But clearly by the evidence or like thereof, we can say that voice isn't enough to prove that they are the same. So if voice and singing are, what about Shredder and moves? Well, we can easily debunk that. Gawr Gura is a big streamer, or was a big streamer. Does it make sense for Senzawa to know her? We can rule that out as a coincidence also. What about moves? Well, it's a running joke that one of them doesn't know the plural of moves and the other one somehow has learned. Well, that is also a coincidence, because if you ask me what the plural of moose is, I also would know if it was moose or moose. So now we have gotten all these surface level accusations off the tables. We have disproven them by using nothing but raw, pure logic. What have we missed? Are there truly coincidences, or are there secret signs? Something that we can couple to our universe lore, and something that we can recognize? Well, let's just take a closer look at that. So we have a lot of coincidences, and if there are more than one coincidence, are they really coincidences at all? I actually hesitate to call them coincidences, or actually relevant coincidences, because while Senzawa went on hiatus in 2020 and Gura debuted in 2020, that is just a coincidence, and you cannot say that is an unlikely coincidence, because within the past 5 years, from the early 2020s, VTubers have become more and more popular. There is absolutely no reason why that would be evidence for anything that any VTuber debuting in 2020 and after could be Senzawa. But they are. As for the voice thing, again, it would match any voice. There's a lot of voices that sound similar to Senzawa, as you could argue that she helped popularize the high-pitched, chill, screamy, grumbling voice. The humor, the singing, everything about this is so early VTuber that we forget, because there's a bunch of VTubers now, but back then, it wasn't the case. That's just how they were. And the idol culture has a huge influence on the VTuber space. So of course, it makes sense that they sing and they have that anime voice. So who is Gura? Why is Gura? And where and when is Gura? Well, to answer that, we actually have to ask, who is Senzawa? While you might be confused as to why I'm bringing up Senzawa again, because I just said they weren't the same, I'm not confused. Because if you look at Senzawa's content, it makes perfect sense. There is one video on her channel I would like to highlight for this explicit theory. Don't worry, we will get back to her channel on a later date, because it will be the cornerstone of which everything is built. It's the video being called Drunk and Welcome to Italy. And why these two first videos are the most interesting so far? Well, in Drunk she sings about somewhere beyond the sea, which is a direct contradictory to our current belief that Senzawa is Gura, because to go into the sea, you have to be out of the sea. Well, here Senzawa clearly states that she is in the sea when she says somewhere beyond the sea, which will imply that she is either looking over the sea from the shore or somewhere on land, or she's inside the sea or with the sea looking beyond it. And that's interesting, because Gura left to the sea and came back from the sea to go back into it. And so did Senzawa. She left the sea to go back into it. Now she's looking beyond it as she left it. She went on the country roads. She went to the old town road. She's been everywhere, which is where Welcome to Italy comes in. Welcome to Italy is interesting for a couple of reasons. First of all, the number 3. We have Italy, because it's clearly Italy, which is I-T-A-L-Y. That is 5 letters, and it's also 5 years ago Gawr Gura debuted. Now, there's something more interesting about that. We break it down to Italy. That is 3 syllables. I don't know what syllables are. And in the title it says, Welcome to Italy. That is 3 words. What's more interesting is there's also 3 years between 2017 and 2020. What makes this more suspicious is the fact that these 2 videos were both released in 2018. That is 1 year after her debut and 2 years before her hiatus. Keep that in mind, because both of them were uploaded the 8th of July and the 8th of August, which is 1 month apart. That is 1, 2, 3. And you combine that, what do you get? You get 6. On the 10th of December 2018, she would release her hit track, I Turned a Bad Creepypasta into a Bad Rap. And that was released exactly 4 months and 2 days after, aka 66. Was she behind all the 66? No, because there was something in between those. Something deep, something dark, something scary. There were 7 videos in between Welcome to Italy and I Turned a Bad Copypasta into a Bad Rap. Is that a coincidence? Well, let's look a little closer and let's not jump the gun and say she is a part of the 6-7 cult, or she created it. Because looking at it, 3 of those videos are actually labeled as music, while the other 4 are labeled as normal music or normal videos. Now, that's 4 again, and that's 3 again. And you combine that to get 7, of course. Well, isn't that weird that it's the same numbers that keeps on repeating? You see, this is where the universe is perfectly balanced. This is a clue. Gura has 4 letters, and Gawr, or Gura, Gawr Gura, and also has 4 letters, actually making it 8, making it 68, or 68. Isn't that weird? And between 6 and 8 there are 2 letters, between 6 and 7 there are 1, aka 3. So where are we going with this, and where am I going with this, to be honest? For that, we actually have to find the answers in 3 very distinct places. That is, Squid Girl, Vivi, and the one and only #1 diva in the world, Hatsune Miku. The very foundation of everything that we're going to talk about from this point on stems from Squid Girl, and what Squid Girl is, and what she does. So let's get into that. Squid Girl is a 2-season anime starting in 2010, which is interesting because that is 7 years, again 7 years before Senzawa's debut, and 10 years before Gura's debut, and 15 years before her eventual graduation. What's more interesting is that the manga ran in Shonen Champion between July 2007 and February 2016, aka 1 year before Senzawa would arrive, and exactly 1 decade before she would arrive. And I'm not just saying arrive to say arrive, I mean it. The Squid Girl show starts with Squid Girl coming out of the sea, standing on a shore, looking at mankind's disgusting nature and for the filth they bring to the world. She calls herself an emissary of the sea. She is there to clean the sea from humans' disgusting trash. And for that, she starts to do her military operation of conquering the earth. Her single goal is to clean up the ocean after the humans and to make sure the humans never ruin it again. In that regard, she's kind of like Godzilla. Humans decide to blow stuff up with a nuke, the nuclear waste go into the sea, it lands in his backyard, and he gets super pissed, so he goes up to do something about it. So what does that mean? Well, just like Godzilla, who eventually goes back to sleep to come back even stronger, so does Squid Girl, except she fails. The ocean doesn't get better, the earth doesn't get better, she fails. And she loses her power. The only way she can get it back is to go back, to get stronger, to come back again. And that's exactly what she does. She goes back to the ocean, and she comes back stronger, and tries again, and fails yet again. Besides both coming from the oceans and going into the ocean and leaving the ocean and going back to the ocean, what does this have to do with anything? As I said, it's the foundation of which we build everything else. We have to take a couple of detours to get to the answer. Vivi, Through Right Eyes Songs. Okay, I cannot pronounce that. Well, it came out in 2021, aka 1 year after Gura's debut, after Senzawa's hiatus. Is that a coincidence? Well, maybe not. We already established that 1 is a recurrent number. So for anyone who haven't watched Vivi, please note that this is spoiler territory. But so Vivi is a story about a robot AI called Vivi who sings for people's lives to put her heart into a song. Well, that's not all it's about. It's actually about saving a doomed future, in which a robot from the future travels back in time to get her up to date, to get her to fight. And she fights against humans and robots. And a lot of problems are caused by humans. But we won't get to that now, so let's put a lid on that for now. And when they reach their goal, they find out it's too late. They have to go back. So she goes back in time, does everything again, and it's the exact same outcome. It's not until she decides to change the future that she survives, that they live. And why does that matter? It's because it's a reflection. It's similar to Squid Girl. Too similar. To go back from someone, to go to the land, to go to the past, to try to change things, to try to change humanity for the better, to try to save humanity, to try to save the earth, failing, having to go back, having to try again, just to fail. But you have to keep on trying. That brings us to Hatsune Miku, and why she is the link between the 3 of them. As I said, Vivi is a songstress AI robot, and Miku is the very foundation of that architecture. Blue hair, blue tie, hiding in your Wi-Fi. That is none other than Hatsune Miku. She is the virtual diva, the pinnacle of virtual divas. She is the original. She is the icon. She is the one that stands atop of the world. It is in her hands. And we know that every Miku is canon. That's because every Miku tries to save the world. Music is meant to help people, to bring people together, to help to discuss, to express oneself, and that is what Miku does. Yet she doesn't succeed. No matter how many songs she releases, the earth doesn't change for the better. Miku tries again and again and again. The same way Vivi does, the same way Squid Girl does, the same way Senzawa and Gura does, because they are all the same, different versions. Senzawa is Gura's predecessor. She is Gura from a different timeline, traveled back to do something about it. She is the foundation from Gura. She tried to unite humanity with humor, with alcohol, its culture, with the internet, but it was just too early. It was too late. There was nothing she could do. She came out of the ocean just to try to do something, just to go back, and never return, because she failed for the last time. Then she came back, or rather, a different version came back. A new Miku, a different Vivi, a different Squid Girl, a different Senzawa, Gura. Gura came. She tried and tried and tried, and she always succeeded. She had so much, she had gone so far, but it didn't change. The hatred was still there. The Earth was still dying for something. Or the universe. Who knows if it's just the Earth, the universe, the humanity, the Lord, the galaxy. We never knew. But what is it? And why are they so necessary? Why do they keep coming back? Even if the world got better, would it still exist? Would it still come back? With the arrival of Sarah, are we still not out yet? What have we done? What do we have to do? We'll never know. Are there more out there? What about the rest? What about the rest of the law? We have only discovered a corner in the world. A corner of our own history, of our own law. What else is out there? What else can be done? What else will happen? What is the story? Go on. We will have to discover it. Are we going to discover something we will regret? Are people going to come after us? Are they going to try to stop us? Will they stop us? Can we find the truth? So we hope we can. To summarize it, they go back in time, then they find a way to the future, then they go back in time in a different timeline to find a way to their future for it to not work.